Hey there, hockey fans. Welcome to episode 73 of the Around the Ballpark podcast. I'm Mike, and I'm thrilled to have you join us tonight. Alongside me is my partner in crime, Darren Redmond, and we have a special treat for you. Tonight, we're diving deep into the world of the Vancouver Canucks with none other than Noah Strang. Noah is a sports reporter who knows the Canucks like the back of his hand, and he's here to give us the inside scoop on this roller coaster of a season. Now, I know the Canucks just missed out on the Stanley Cup playoffs, but don't let that get you down. This season was packed with thrilling moments, nail-biting games, and breakout performances. We'll chat about all of that and more, but wait, there's more. We'll also take a little detour into the world of baseball because, hey, who doesn't love a good sports crossover? And of course, we can't forget the iconic Rogers Arena, home of the Canucks and a fortress of unforgettable memories. Noah will also share his Mount Rushmore of Canucks talent. Who made the cut? You'll have to stick around to find out. Plus, we're looking ahead to the future. What does the road look like for the Canucks? Noah's got some predictions that you won't want to miss. And finally, we dive into a fun debate. What's the greatest hockey movie of all time? Noah has a favorite, and it's sure to spark some lively discussion. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get this show on the road. Don't forget to leave your comments below. We love hearing from you. Until next time.
It is that time. We are live once again. Your place to be on a Sunday evening. My name is Mike Redmond, alongside my, as the video just said, partner in crime. Apparently, I don't know what kind of crime we're getting into, but my brother Darren Redmond, and we are live tonight. Our very special guest, we'll get to know him in just a few moments, is Noah Strang. And tonight's episode, we are taking a pivot from the baseball world, as exciting as baseball has been these first 2 weeks. Tonight, we're going to dip our toe into the National Hockey League one more time. A few of you that are watching may have remembered we had talked Edmonton Oilers just about a month or so ago. But tonight, we're going to dive into the Vancouver Canucks and talk all things Canucks and just a little bit of baseball as well, because we are a baseball podcast first and foremost, but we love to have fun along the way, talk about other topics as well. But before we get into all that, Darren, if you would mind sharing a word from our sponsors, which you'll see them on the bottom ticker as well throughout the entire video. But Darren, take it away.
For those of you in the lower 48 and Alaska and Hawaii, tax day's coming in, 2 days, just saying. So attention, Palm Bay and Fort Pierce. Are you struggling with tax issues? Whether you're behind on filings, you're dealing with a lien, or just need that expert guidance, Nashville Tax Solution is here to help. Their team knows the ins and outs of tax relief and is ready to fight for you. But don't just take Mike's word for it. Don't just take my word for it. Listen to what some of the clients have told us. Things like, Chris Bennett and his team have saved me from a financial nightmare. They're knowledgeable, they're clear, and they're compassionate. So don't let tax troubles keep you up at night. Call 855-627-4829, visit NashvilleTaxSolutions.com, or email info@NashvilleTaxSolutions.com today. Nashville Tax Solutions, because tax problems deserve a real solution.
Thank you, Darren. And one of the things we love to joke about a little bit on the show with Christopher Bennett and the team at Nashville Tax Solutions, sometimes it feels like he is as hard as a worker as he can be. But sometimes we'll see him at all different places. So last night, he got the opportunity to go down to Miami for UFC 314. It's crazy. It's that high already. And he got to meet Amanda Nunes in person, which was super cool. And he actually sat next to the cousin of Rhea Ripley from WWE. So he is usually anywhere and everywhere. Just did that big fundraiser for Jelly Roll in Nashville recently as well for that. So he is all over the place. And if you're watching, Chris, thank you so much for believing us from day one. So tonight we are, like I said, we're going to talk National Hockey League. So first and foremost, Noah Strang, thank you so much for being here with us on the podcast. And if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about who you are, where they can find you on social media, if you want to be found, and just a little bit about how your love for the Canucks started.
Yeah, thank you both, first of all, for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm a sports reporter based in Vancouver, and so that entails covering all the major professional teams in Vancouver, but most of my time and attention is spent on the Canucks because that is the biggest team in town. I grew up in Vancouver, so I've been a Canucks fan since I was a kid, but it's only been for the past 2 hockey seasons now that I've been working on the beat every single day at the practice and the games, fully doing that. You can find most of my work through Twitter, or X it's called now, I guess, at Noah Strang _. So if you're interested in the Canucks, then make sure to give me a follow there.
Please do. You get it straight. I've kind of been watching it for a while, and please do. You get the good stuff there.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes. And I've been following along on Twitter, X daily on your posts and whatnot. I was sharing with Darren, for me here in Florida, for whatever reason, it's very difficult to find hockey. I know it's out there, and so it's been more. So he's given me some tips where I can find it and a little bit more freely, because I much prefer to watch that than most others, especially on some of the off days and the baseball days and stuff like that. So, but you mentioned Noah, so there's so much we can unpack and talk about. So let's start there. So you had mentioned. Primarily, it's a Vancouver is the Canucks, is the big ticket in town. But before we get into them, if there's some other, what are some of the other professional sports in Vancouver that people may or may not be aware of that you either cover or that are tickets in town?
Yeah, well, we have the Whitecaps in the MLS, the soccer team here in town.
Very good team.
They're actually first in the MLS right now. Yeah, they
very good team. I covered that.
Yeah, they beat Austin FC, I think 5-1 yesterday. So that was a big win, and they're actually about to play in the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Messi and Miami are supposed to come to town in about 2 weeks here. And so the Whitecaps have had a really great start to the season. They're definitely getting a lot of people excited at BC Place where they play. And we also have the BC Lions. They're our professional football team in the Canadian Football League here. And they have also been, over the past few years, I'd say, getting a lot of people excited and getting people out to their games. They got a big ticket quarterback, Nathan Rourke, who was in the NFL for a bit, and he's come back to BC to play here again. So it's exciting what he'll do this season.
You know, I got to say again, because I lived in on the West Coast for 16 years in California. Not nearly enough love for the Vancouver sport area, because I mean it's great. I mean, you take Vancouver and Seattle and the Portland, throw it in there as well. I mean, there's just this wonderful. And then when you talk hockey, I don't want to get ahead of our skis, between Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary. Let's go. Let's just go. It's really great stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of passionate sports fans up here, and of course, hockey is number one. And the love that the fans have for hockey in Vancouver is really incredible. It's a really special hockey market, I think, especially when the team is good. I mean, even when the team's not good, it's still a very active market. But one thing you'll notice about a lot of the fans of Vancouver is they're very smart, they're very engaged. You know, I know when I write something or I report something, I get a lot of smart people coming into my DMs, sending me different things that they're seeing or asking for my opinion. So I really appreciate getting the chance to work in Vancouver. Like I said, I grew up here and I was born here and raised here. So I really have a strong connection to the city.
And I want to ask, so like one of the things, I'll tie in this to baseball for a minute, but so my wife, Eileen, you just saw her in the chat, but so she is diehard Tampa Bay Rays fan. And we had to pay a little extra because you can't on the MLB ticket, you can't watch the home team here, at least, because unless it's a complete sellout, the blackout restrictions and all that stuff. I can't imagine in a city like Vancouver, or other places where your number one team and you can't watch it live. Like until we just got this FanDuel network that we're paying a little extra for, we would have to wait for an hour and a half to 2 hours until after the game was over to be able to actually watch the game. And it's such an inconvenience at times. So we're just like, let's just get it because, you know, we know that we're going to want to watch it most nights. I think we've literally watched, all but one game already this season. So I'm so envious of living in a sports town like that, where it's just, you know, about that team all the time. One of the things I've shared on this podcast a couple of times, and Darren's aware, where I'm from is actually in Central Florida. And a lot of times, for whatever reason, whether it's the NFL, whether it's Major League Baseball, the state doesn't appreciate the teams that they do have, and they support the Pittsburgh Steelers, they support the New England Patriots, they support the Dallas Cowboys, the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, and I get they have a minor league team in Tampa, but for whatever reason, it's not. You go to the sports bar or wherever and you watch your homegrown Florida teams. It's everybody else. You go to a Marlins game, they're all cheering for the team that the Marlins are playing. So that's got to be exciting to live in a place where it's all about that. And from what I understand too, like what is your take on when visiting, from what you've seen from your perspective? Because one thing Darren and I shared when we went to Boston last year, the fans couldn't have been nicer. How do you feel like the Vancouver fans treat like the opposing teams? Is there one or two that they're a little bit more, I don't know what the word is,
like more rivals kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd say like the unfortunate part about the Canucks is for the last 10 years, there haven't been very many winning seasons. So there hasn't been that many playoff appearances, which kind of helps create some of those rivalries. Like in the early 2010s when the Canucks were really good, it was Boston and Chicago and those teams that the Canucks had these strong rivalries with, and you saw that in the fans a bit too. But I mean, any visiting fan coming to a game in Vancouver, I think, is always treated very well. I mean, it's a great city to come watch a hockey game in, and so it's always very friendly and everything. In today, maybe Edmonton is one of the teams that the Canucks still have this rivalry with. But but for visiting fans coming to visit, it's a great spot to come.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just kind of unpack that a little bit and just kind of expand on what you were saying, like I think anyway, is now I've never been to a hockey game in Vancouver. Even though I covered their minor league hockey and their soccer, like I mentioned, when I was covering the USL. There's going to be chirping and there's going to be, but they respect the game. So if you know that somebody like yourself, like your wife, when you went to Fenway Park to root on the Rays, they knew that you knew the game. And what they probably have low tolerance for, and again, when I say low tolerance, they're not going to hurt anybody or anything, is the person who just talks about nonsense and just wears the jersey. You stink and have no reference. Like you can tell real quick, they're very educated when it comes to their sports. Yeah. Am I wrong with that, Noah?
No, for sure. I feel like in Vancouver, I mean, sometimes I laugh when you're in the stadium and you hear cheers, and it's not even like maybe a big hit or a goal that they're cheering on, but like it's a clean breakout pass and you get some people cheering, or it's like the team's like putting on a good shift in the offensive zone. It's like the third line putting on pressure and you get the fans clapping and that's why I think it even comes back around. Like it's a really strong hockey market in that way that a lot of people know what's going on in the game, which makes it exciting to write about too, because it keeps me on my toes a little bit. I got to make sure that I'm getting things right. And so it's really fun.
You mentioned, Mike, I want you just to follow up real quick. You've been covering the team, and I don't want to make it sound like, if we can use another baseball team as reference for our people watching and listening, it's not like Vancouver's, the White Sox. I mean, they're 37, 29, and 14. That is not a bad record. So, I mean, do people realize that they have a good team there? But I know we want to make the playoffs and everything else and go win a cup. So what's unpack that for us a little bit? What is right now that culture for the fan base?
I think it's just all relative to expectations, kind of, because last year they had such a magical season. I mean, they were one of the top teams in the league pretty much from wire to wire. They had a really good playoff run. It was the first time that Rogers Arena had hosted a playoff game in almost a decade, I think. And going into this year, there was hope and expectation to build on that and to really turn a corner after what's been 10 years of pretty poor teams in Vancouver. So I think people felt like they were moving on to this next stage of building this group here, where we were going to get playoff hockey regularly in Vancouver again. They were going to be one of the better teams in the division. They were going to have a chance to contend for the Stanley Cup. And this year, that didn't happen. There's countless things that went wrong. And I think that's what people are most disappointed about this year, just relative to expectations. I mean, they weren't one of the worst teams in the league. They nearly made the playoffs, even facing all this adversity. But But when you come into the year and you think you're going to be one of those best teams, and then you don't even make the playoffs, like that's disappointing. People feel that.
Yeah, and I got to ask this, and there's a couple questions in the comments. We'll get to those too. But I have to ask, so now that your team is out of it, right, and you're a little bit different because you cover them daily. But as a hockey fan in general, so what is your kind of criteria? Okay, the playoffs have started. My team's not there. How invested are you? Like, do you pick one team? Or do you just watch hockey for the sake of hockey? Because like I've heard people do that where they just will watch it through the end because they love the sport, or do you just go, okay, this is my team just for the playoffs? I know with me in baseball, for example, I'll go to this team, I'll go to that team, but once it gets down to just the Braves and the Yankees, I'm tapped out. I'm done. Like there's at some point I don't have a team. Like you can't just keep moving. But so I'd love to know the answer to that question before we find out what a Canuck is, because I'm interested to find out.
For the playoffs, like I'll typically watch the best series. Like there's some really exciting first round series that are coming up, and so I'll watch a couple of games from each of those series. I mean, the first round's so fun because there's multiple games on at once. You can like flip between the channels and go back and forth. But I have a soft spot for Montreal. I lived in Montreal for a bit, and I think it's just such a great hockey market, and hockey is better. Hockey is better when Montreal is good. So I have a really soft spot for Montreal, and I'll be watching a lot of their playoff games this year as far as they go.
I'm sorry, just a follow-up. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm talking hockey.
You jump in whenever you want.
So, as a New York Ranger fan, we had a very similar year this year to the Canucks. Yeah. You're disappointed, and you expected so much more, and you just laid this egg, over 500, but you're just unsatisfied, right? I mean, that's really it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the Rangers and Canucks, there's a lot of parallels between their seasons this year, and they made that big blockbuster trade in the middle, and it didn't really turn any of their seasons around. Things continue going the same way. So. Yeah, I mean, it leaves both teams in very interesting spots this summer. I think it's a really big summer for both organizations, and it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is to a season like this.
Yeah, I think the Rangers are going to need a new coach. I think that's the first thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think they're going to. All signs point towards them getting a new coach, so it'll be interesting to see who they pick to lead this group.
I think Rick Tocchet stays. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any insider information at this point, this is all just my opinion.
Conjecture. I get you.
But I do think that they'll hopefully be able to find a way to keep him in town and probably agree on a long-term extension. I mean, he won the Coach of the Year award last year. I know there's people that have gripes with some of the way that the team plays, but when you look at what they had to deal with this year in terms of injuries and the personnel that they have up front in their forward group, it wasn't like they were working. Tocchet was getting to work with a loaded roster to create a ton of offense here, and I think the players really like him. And most importantly, Quinn Hughes is the captain and the team's best player, and he really likes Tocchet. And for the next 2 years, where we still have 2 years on Quinn Hughes' contract here, almost every decision is going to be made with what he wants kind of near the front of mind. There's no bigger goal than getting him to re-sign in Vancouver, and so
better.
If he wants Tocchet back, then that's going to be a big boost and big motivator for the Canucks to get a deal done.
Absolutely, and we have a few things I want to dive into, but so I got to ask real quick. We had the question: what is a Canuck? A
Canuck is like another word for Canadian, and the Canucks mascot's like Johnny Canuck, who I'm not sure the exact origin. I think it was like an old thing from one of the Second World War or something. They would use him in the advertising, and but yeah, it's another word for Canadian kind of. It's not super exciting, but the logo, of course, for the Canucks is the orca whale, which is kind of a really big Pacific Northwest thing. So it leans into that, with the local aspect.
Okay. And I see Heather's comment. She has been to several Columbus Blue Jackets games, and my grandson plays for the junior team. Watched them several times too. So that's more hockey than I've been to in person. I've seen the Orlando Solar Bears and but I haven't been to a professional hockey game. So hopefully that's on the docket at some point. But and Heather, I will be. I know you're jealous. I'll be in Cincinnati on Wednesday, checking out my first Reds game in person. So super looking forward to that. So let's. There's so many areas we want to go to in the amount of time we have together here, but. Let's kind of look at the highlights of that 2025 season. You mentioned the big trade of JT Miller to the Rangers. There was some internal conflicts there going on and stuff like that. But some highlights for you from the season. I know we could look at them missing the playoffs as one thing, but you know that there were some injuries, some key injuries that really led to some things. The season-ending injury to Elias and stuff. So if you want any bullet points or anything you took from the 2020 season on a positive light, if we're looking at it from a positive lens that you want to share.
It's a bit harder to find some of the positive stories this year, but I still think there are a lot. I mean, the biggest has to be, I think, Quinn Hughes. Like last year, won the Norris Trophy as the league's best defenseman, and this year maybe even hit another level. I mean, it's unfortunate that he missed, I think, 16 games with injuries this year, which probably take him out of the running for any of the major awards. But he played at that level when he was in the lineup, and the fact that he's one of the best players in the world and he's on the Canucks is a huge positive. You know, he's a talent like very few players that the Canucks have ever had. And so having him on the team and him playing it at this level is a huge positive. I also think there is quite a few positive stories. I mean, one of the ones just on the human side of it was winger Dakota Joshua before the season revealed that he'd been diagnosed with testicular cancer. He came back and made a full return and ended up playing most of the season this year. So that was really great to see. And, you know, they have some young players that seem to be pushing on their veterans, fighting for spots. I think Elias Pettersson, the defenseman, he was a third-round pick a few years ago, and he broke into the NHL full-time this year. And he's someone now that, you know, is ready to play ahead of schedule a little bit and seems to be a bright spot for the future. So there are positives that you can take from this year. I mean, every year's got both negatives and positives. Just, I think, difficult with everything that happened to sometimes find them.
So how do you feel about Jake DeBrusk's 27 goals this year? Are you happy with that? Good number? Are you expecting more or less? I thought it was okay.
No, I thought it was pretty good too. I think it kind of goes under the radar sometimes with everything that happened. I mean, but DeBrusk, he fit in pretty well. I mean, on that power play, he scored quite a few power play goals and getting near 30 goals when they didn't really have like a center that he stuck with throughout the year. You know, he bounced around the lineup. Like Canucks, it felt like we're changing their combinations all the time. And so for DeBrusk to be consistent, I mean, he is a streaky goal scorer, so he'll score like 4 in 6 games and then go a couple games without scoring. But to have him on that contract, I mean, he was really the big free agent signing from last year, right? He's going to be here for a while. And at a pretty good number. I mean, it's under $6 million per year, and with the cap going up this year, like getting close to 30 goals for that dollar amount is very good business. So, he's also a great guy in the room. It seems like he's an unreal interview. So it's really good when you see people like that succeed.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great. And so, you know, okay, so we looked at it from a positive lens. So now looking at it from the negative lens. So if you had the pen and trying to improve this team, I know I just want to see if you echo that. I see a lot of people feel that in addition to bringing Rick back, Coach Rick back, but one of the ways of improving was to add both a center and a scoring winger. Your thoughts on, is that what you feel, would that be the next or the first step into improving this team? Because like Darren mentioned, their record is not like it's not, you know, down the dumps. Like, yes, they finished first in the Pacific Division last year, and yes, they fell to 5th this year, but still a decent record. And we have those injuries. Who know without those injuries what would happen? But what are your thoughts on that? Is that what you would do first? Is add the center and maybe another scoring?
Yeah, I think everyone in Vancouver hopes that like they can turn this around pretty quickly and get back into being a playoff team next year. And the biggest thing that they need is definitely another center. I mean, right now, when you look at their center depth, it's Elias Pettersson, and then who was not as good as he needed to be this year, and then Philip Hedl, who has just got another concussion and has missed the last handful of games. And I mean, going into next year, Hedl, when he was healthy in Vancouver, he played well, but that concussion history is very concerning. You know, with one hit, it could end almost his entire season at any time, or maybe even his career. You know, we're talking about a player that now suffered multiple major concussions. I mean, every year that comes out with more research that these concussions have a long-term effect on your body. And so getting another center is definitely going to be top of mind for the Canucks. They have Pius Suter, who's a pending free agent. He's had an excellent season, but from all the reporting that's gone on in the market, it hasn't sounded like the two sides are that close on agreeing on an extension. So they need to find another center, whether they do that through free agency or through trade. That's got to be like number one on their list of priorities. I mean, great hockey teams are usually built down the middle with multiple strong centers, and something that the Canucks had last year when both Pettersson and JT Miller were playing at the top of their game. They were very strong down the middle. It helped them a lot, and they need to get back to that for next year.
And Darren, this question for both of you. Do you think so? Sam Bennett with Florida Panthers, obviously he's going to be coveted by multiple franchises. So I'm not sure where the Canucks fall on that list of that. But do you see Darren and then Noah any chance that could be the landing spot for someone like him, or do you see other teams higher up on that list?
I don't think he's going anywhere.
If he's staying put,
He's staying put. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I imagine they don't want him to go anywhere. So.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good setup you get in Florida there. You know, you get to live in the sun, you get some tax advantages compared to playing in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it would be a difficult sell to bring Bennett to Vancouver, just with the way that the organization, the point is they're at right now, and and some of the lifestyle choices. But who knows? Maybe he'd be willing to come here. It'll be hard to see. I would bet against it right now if I had to choose. But I mean, he is the type of center that the Canucks could use. You know, someone that plays a little bit more physical, someone that's a little bit more rugged, someone that brings a little bit more of that on edge play to kind of complement Pettersson's more skillful game.
I think you were slowly starting to see that, where you used to have. I'm showing my age here. The Tim Kerrs of the world just stand in front of that net and just get those tip-ins and those and then we kind of went away from that, but it's slowly coming back. You know, that person who's not doing anything illegal but just stays in front of that net and just, you got to move me.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to put one behind the goalie.
I mean, I always laugh, like, in the NHL, the difference between the regular season and the playoffs, it's almost like two different games completely.
It
you know,
is.
like the style of play that is allowed to go in the playoffs and how teams win compared to the regular season, it's like almost a whole new sport. And so certain players are more valuable when the spring comes along. And like Bennett's definitely one of those guys that when the games matter most, like he's someone that makes a big impact. And so teams are going to want him because of that. And, you know, at the Four Nations in the spring, he was one of the standout players. I'm sure just that performance, like, added a couple $1 million into his pocket this summer.
So you brought up Four Nations. Then I want to go back to the scoring drought that Vancouver had come around February. That Four Nations was wonderful. I mean, besides the fact that the best team did win, but did you expect? I don't ever want to see an All-Star game again. Four Nations. Wasn't it incredible?
No, it was absolutely amazing. I was lucky enough to cover the Montreal aspect of it, so I was there for that part. And the atmosphere in the building there, like for that first Canada US game, unfortunately, you know, the champions lost that game, but it was really amazing.
It was a tune-up game.
It was just incredible. And I mean, like having the best on best go like that. I think some people were saying, oh, like you can't just make up a tournament, like the players won't care, you know, there's nothing on the line. But I mean, when you put that Canada, or American or Swedish or Finnish jersey on, and these players, you know, are extremely competitive. I mean, I always kind of find it funny sometimes when fans are like, oh, like I want my team to lose like the last couple of games to improve their draft slot. It's like, do you think that these guys are not wired like that? And so when they did that Four Nations, I mean, I wasn't expecting to be as big of a hit as it was, but it was incredible. Like such an amazing job with NHL. And I mean, especially when you compare it to the All-Star game last year, which was kind of a dud and a bit sleepy, it makes so much sense.
I'm sorry, I don't care what the sport is, whenever you make these rules up to make it more quote unquote interesting, no, don't ever do that, because there's a reason people love the sport to begin with. So it's like saying, okay, you know, all you can eat, you know, burgers, and then you go there and there's cookies. I mean, don't do that. I mean, well, we don't want anybody to get injured. Well, I don't want to be there, you know. And you mentioned, and I think you're absolutely right, about the nationalistic fervor. You want to win for your country. You want to win for the sweater. Yeah, but I will argue, and I've been around hockey long enough. I was director of hockey for a junior team in Fresno for years and covered it, and just a fan. And through the podcast, talking to NHL players, former NHL players, there's a love for the game and the culture of hockey that's just different. No, I'd like if you can talk a little bit about that. You knew that these four teams, but they were just going to come out. They love the the game. They don't want to embarrass the game. And no hate to the NBA, but let's be honest. You watch that thing. It's a disgrace.
Yeah,
When you talk about the
so
All-Star
bad.
game,
yeah,
there's no
yeah,
defense. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think hockey has this like very deeply embedded kind of code and respect for like how certain things are supposed to work, and I think, I mean, at some points maybe it almost, I feel like, holds back some of the growth of the league at points, because the players are so team first. They're so sacrificial of their own interests that sometimes we lose like some of that NBA kind of individual guy at the press conference talking about something, but that's just the way that hockey is. Has this deeply rooted tradition, ways of players caring about the team first, and it doesn't matter really if it's the national team or the Vancouver Canucks or whatever team you may be playing for. I think just people, when they hit the ice, they feel that responsibility to do things the right way and do things the way that they're meant to be, and it's part of what makes the game really special.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to ask you, currently live at the Rogers Arena myself now, but I got to ask. So it was funny, Darren. I remember before we went on the air, I was chatting with Noah for a minute. My brain went to the Blue Jays, and I called it the Rogers Center for a minute, and my mind went to, because I'm a wrestling mark, but I went to Hulk Hogan was at the Silver Dome, and he called it the Superdome in front of thousands, and he got booed, and he wasn't realizing this was before he kind of said some stuff he shouldn't have said and whatever. It was just like, wait a minute, he was just like, really, like, what did I say? And then he realized, but so if you wouldn't mind talking, one of the things we love to do on the show, Noah, is just briefly chatting about the stadiums and the ballparks themselves. If there's any hidden stadium eat. Sometimes there is no, hidden gem. It's just the hot dog, or it's just this, or it's just that. I'm excited this Wednesday going to my first Reds game in the Great American Ballpark to have Skyline Chili. So, is there something that if we were to go to the Rogers Arena that we must have in the stadium eat, and then maybe what's something outside of the food world, but a must see or experience at the arena itself?
Well, I think Rogers Arena, pretty great arena, because something special about it, it's right downtown Vancouver. It's right near the water. It's about like a not that long walk down to the water, so it's pretty special that way. There's lots of good eats. I know inside the arena, like, they have this thing called the carve sandwich, just like a sandwich piled up with all kinds of meats. But I think if you talk to any real,
get the meat sweats.
Yeah. A lot of the diehard Canucks fans will swear by it before the game. Across the street, there's a Costco, and if you go to that Costco before the game, it's filled with Canucks fans eating the Costco hot dogs, because once you get in, it costs you like an arm and a leg to get a sandwich. So it's right across the street, and it's just
love that hack. That hack.
And it's just if you go there, you'll find like tons of Canucks fans eating for cheap before they get in the stadium. So I think that's, like, if you're lucky enough to come to Vancouver for a game, something that you should check out before you go in the stadium.
And not enough people do that. They yes, you want to go to the stadium, you want to eat there or whatever. But like, sometimes I remember going to a game one time, my buddy disappears in the second inning, and I don't see him until the bottom of the seventh inning. He's like, "Oh, you should have tried this. You should have tried that." I'm like, "You missed the whole game." Like, that's great that the food was good, but like, but no, I love those little hacks, because you got to save a few bucks here, a few bucks there, and you go into the stadium, the exact same item is 3 times as much. Yeah. So you gotta. Yeah.
You'll meet a lot of Canucks fans, a lot of like season ticket holders and stuff that like to hang out there before the game. So it's a fun place to hang out before going in.
Yeah. So, and then any other last minute things there for that stadium outside of where it's just really where it's located is ideal, right?
Yeah, I think it's nice. I mean, they're undergoing a big renovation that's supposed to start, I guess, pretty much next week, like after the Canucks season's over on Wednesday. They're replacing all the seats in the stadium, so it should have a different look. They're losing the maroon seats. It's going to be all black seats starting next season, and so it's going to have a different look soon.
So I know one thing we also like to do here is we talk about uniforms.
Yeah,
and our favorite uniform, road away. Like, for example, again, me, all this dirt, right? I am more of a traditionalist. And it's not tradition actually. But I like the home white, and then there was the big switch, but there was some wonderful, iconic sweaters for Vancouver.
Yeah.
Like for me, like you'll never get past, the the one that was done by the supposed psychologist is supposed to look violent, with the big V on it and stuff like that. So which one is your favorite and why?
I mean, one thing about the Canucks is throughout their history, they've had a bit of an identity crisis, right? They've gone through about like a ton of different logos, even different like color schemes over their over their history. I actually like, they don't wear it anymore, but it was blue, like the stick in the rink. It's got the Rick and the stick in the rink. I think that one's a classic, but
that is very classic, very simple, very clean.
Yeah. The alternate jersey that they have now, like the black flying skate. That one seems to be really popular around the league, and it is nice. And I hope that, I mean, there's some people that think that they should go back to that full time, like having that flying skate design. I don't think I'm at that point, but it is fun. I mean, they wear them for about half their home games now. So it's almost a 50-50 split when they're at home between that.
Awesome. Excellent. I got to ask, what went wrong here? I'm going to show this clip here, or this overlay real quick, to talk about uniforms. And so many City Connect ones and Major League Baseball get it completely wrong. Tampa Bay Rays have a great one, but what happened here?
Yeah.
I've never seen that, and I don't ever want to see it again.
Yeah.
One more time? Okay. One more time for that. Yeah.
There we go.
Yes, there we go. Now, this was not the Canucks, so we're not picking up.
There's been some terrible sweaters over the years. I mean, even the Canucks, they had what was it called? A couple of years ago, they did in the NHL, I forget, but everyone got like a new special jersey.
Right.
It was something, I don't know, I forget. But the Canucks one pretty much it kind of looked like a Sprite can. Like, it had that green and blue kind of gradient. It didn't look very good.
No. They try.
Yes, they tried. So another staple, we don't always do this every episode, but we've got to ask you, and obviously me not being as much of a hockey guy, you're
leaning hard. You're coming hard. I love it.
Coming hard. But talking the Mount Rushmore, so we got to go there. One thing I love about doing the Mount Rushmore, there's no right or wrong answers. I mean, especially you can name 4 names, and I'm not going to debate you because I have no clue. But sometimes there's forgotten positions, like in baseball, for example. Sometimes a great catcher, maybe it's a manager that we leave off the list. Sometimes those people are just as crucial. So I'm excited to hear your list, and I want to, because I'm also curious to know, will a goalie find himself on that list or not? Is it someone because of a defense or whatever? So putting you on the spot here, gave you some time to prepare. Hopefully you got your 4. We try to usually keep it to 4, but no one's going to find you if you pick 5.
Yeah.
But if you had your 4, Noah, for the Mount Rushmore for Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I've got. When I was thinking, I've got my 4, and 3 of them came to mind pretty quickly. So the first 2 are Henrik and Daniel Sedin. I mean, when you think about just like the fact that they're twins and they played their whole career together on the Canucks, and they were both like among the best players in the world for the Canucks, which hasn't happened very often across the Canucks history. I mean, the Canucks are still looking for their first Stanley Cup, so they've never. There's no one on the Mount Rushmore that's going to have a Stanley Cup with the Canucks, but that 2011 run to the finals, to Game 7, was probably the best team that the Canucks have ever iced, and it was the Sedin twins that were the key components of that. And after retiring, they've stayed in Vancouver, and they still work with the team today in player development roles. So they're still at all the practices, helping the players. Even at the farm team in Abbotsford, they have quite a heavy presence there. And so I think just the way that they embrace the city and also with their excellence on the ice, they should definitely get 2 of the spots. I mean, you can try to put them in one, the Twins, but I think they should get 2 of the spots. And then my next one was going to be Pavel Bure. I mean, I think any Canucks fan will say Pavel Bure is probably the most exciting player to have ever put on the sweater. And while he didn't stay in Vancouver as long as some of the other kind of like career Canucks that were there forever. At his peak, again, he was just electrifying, and so he has to have one of the spots. And the 4th spot is where it gets really tricky. I went through a lot of different names. I mean, I think Quinn Hughes is not there yet, but if he stays past this contract, he will 100% be there. I mean, he's already setting all kinds of franchise records. I think he's now 1 point back for the most points by a defenseman in Canucks history, and he's only played about half the games as the guys at the top of that list. So he's just a player like they've never seen before, but I'm not quite ready to give it to him yet, I think. Went through a couple other names. I mean, like Marcus Naslin's another great one. He's got his number retired by the Canucks. He's one of the best players in the league. And I think, though, maybe this might be crazy, but Thomas Gradin or Stan Smeel, like some of these guys from the earlier days of the Canucks that stuck around after in roles. I mean, like Gradin was a great scout for the Canucks and worked in the management, and Stan Smeel stuck
I
around.
love everything about that.
Yeah, and they've really given like their whole lives to the Canucks, much more than just their playing days. So picking one of those guys for the final spot, I think, would make the most sense.
For me, it's Daniel Sedin, Papa Bore, and then because I'm old, Trevor Linden.
Trevor Linden's another good one too.
You know, and then the one that is not, he didn't put up a lot of stuff in the stat book, but there are certain guys in hockey, right? And I'll give you a little hint. Ken Linsman is one. He was known as the Rat. And not in a bad way. Just he's the guy that you hated if you played against him, but you loved him if he was on your team. Trevor Williams. You know, I mean, those are just great names and great players. You know, and it's funny, a little offshoot for a second. Ken Linsman was there, but Williams was not. You know, the show Shoresy just did a whole thing where they went around to a bunch of different arenas and played exhibition against some former players. So, I'm friendly with one of the guys who plays one of the gyms. Okay. You know, and his son billeted at my house for a couple of years when he played with the Fresno Monsters. You know, and so he invited me to one of the games. I was down there with the players and, you know, in the locker room area and this and that. And that just, the culture's the best. Yeah. Like these lifers, you know, you call them pluggers in the best way possible. And you know exactly what I mean. These are great guys. Trevor Williams was one of those kind of guys. Yeah.
Like Gino Ojdick is another one of those guys. Yes. That's just an absolute legend. And
I'm getting goosebumps. I really am.
Yeah, you're right, though. There's just certain guys that make a big presence no matter what it is that they end up on the score sheet. You know, you just know that they're there. You can feel them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it. You can feel them. It's just great. It's John Monasti. Nasty Marasti was the guy, you know, that plays one of the gyms. Just a great guy.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
I was surprised on your list. So you have Daniel Sedin, but not Henrik Sedin on yours.
Yeah, so I just picked for the same reason he said I had to pick one. It was a coin flip.
Right, well, our next guest on the show is Henrik Sedin. Somehow we only have 5 minutes left as time flies. So I want to make sure I ask this question. Now, before I ask my last question, then Darren, your last question. You talked about that 2011 team, which might have been the best team. They lost to the Bruins in 7 games. They had a 2-0 lead, and then it didn't work out. But also, and again, the tie into the Rangers again. Back in
1994 team was amazing.
7 games, they had a 3-1 series lead, and then didn't quite work out. But 3 Stanley Cups finals, even though they don't have their win, they did make 3, 82, 94, and 2011. So just want to mention that. So my final question, and then we'll throw it to Darren for his final thoughts and take us away. We kind of talked about it, or we mentioned it in that preview video. Best hockey movie of all time from a true hockey fan. I want to ask what that is for you. I have a feeling it's not the Mighty Ducks, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you your answer for that question.
Well, you know, I mean, I am Canadian, but I think for me, the best hockey movie's got to be Miracle. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. Like at the Four Nations, the Americans had some of those guys from that team come back and speak to them before the tournament started, just about, I mean, kind of the hockey culture again, like what it means to put on the sweater. And watching that movie,
that's not America. That's just a hockey movie.
Really yeah. And like watching that movie, it gives you like kind of goosebumps a bit, and it's just really well done. I mean, I think it's a classic. Like even a lot of non-hockey fans have seen Miracle, so I think it's a really great one.
No, I think you'd agree with me, and if you don't, pretend you do. 3 great words from that movie. You ready?
Yeah.
But not tonight.
I mean, there's a lot of great lines from that movie, you know, that stand out, and like, I mean, it has you like ready to run through a wall after you finish watching it. So,
for me, it's a tie. I mean, Miracle is awesome.
Yeah,
inappropriate for many people. The 2 movies I'm going to talk about, but One is Slapshot.
Yeah, that was up on my list too. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then second is, because I had so much experience with junior hockey,
Yeah.
was Youngblood.
Oh,
That took place in Canada. Which was just a fun, sort of fun movie. How about you, Mike? Do you have a favorite?
I am going to echo Miracle. Of course, there's other ones out there, Mystery Alaska and some others.
Great movie.
Miracle would be top for me. Not that there's anything wrong with Mighty Ducks movies, but
No.
It's no Sandlot. Do you have a final question, Darren, on your end before we?
Who wins the Stanley Cup?
That's really hard. That's a really hard question to answer. I think this year, there's a lot of very good teams. Colorado, to me, is just with their elite talent that they have up there. I mean, the moves that they've made this year, when you have game breakers like McKinnon and McCarr, those players, so incredible. But I think part of what makes hockey in the Stanley Cup playoffs so much fun is the first two rounds, it's the teams at their best battling it out. But the later you get, it's just more about a war of attrition. It's just whoever 100%. Whoever can stay kind of healthy and whoever can keep their energy levels at a good level. So it's so hard to predict every year. But if I had to pick right now, maybe Colorado would be my pick.
I agree.
Yeah. They're gonna have to play Dallas in the first round. So that who knows? They could be out right away. I mean, Dallas is a great team as well. So maybe Colorado. In the Eastern Conference, there's a lot of good teams too. I'm not the biggest believer in the Washington Capitals this year. I know they've been pacing the East for a while, but I think maybe Toronto or Florida coming out of that side. Problem is too,
needs to get out of the second round.
Yeah. And I mean, the difficult part is you look at that division with Toronto, Florida, and Tampa. They all have to play each other to get out of the first two rounds. So by the time they get to the conference finals, they're going to be beat up. They're going to be tired. Those series are going to be war. So I mean, it really is just about it's a battle, the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, I always say it's the best playoffs out of every sport, in my opinion, and it's just so exciting and so much fun. So I'm excited for it to start, even though the Canucks aren't in it this year.
And I love that, like you mentioned earlier too, I love that NHL just gets it right with the playoffs. One of the things we poke fun a little bit on is with Major League Baseball, we love a lot of what they do, but they love to start these early playoff games at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. It's okay. If a certain amount of teams make the playoffs and we don't want to stretch out the playoffs for 3 months, it's okay. It's okay if we have to flick the remote between two games. We'll be okay with that. Back with, as a wrestling fan, the Monday Night Wars on Monday night, it was okay to switch between Raw and Nitro. Same with the NHL. It's okay to switch between two games. It doesn't have to be 4 hours apart starting so early,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun. It's that March Madness feeling a bit of March Madness it's just the games are always happening, it's always going on. So
yeah, I'm going to take the Florida Panthers and the Winnipeg Jets. On my end, I think there's something to say. I don't think the Florida Panthers are the best team in the East this year, but they've got the last few years now. There's just something about they're just there. So
they're just very good.
They're unbelievable.
They're fundamentally smart, and they play just smart hockey.
Yeah. And I think honestly, I talked about how Florida sports is not. I thinking about it though, I think hockey is the one out of the four professional sports that they're legit Lightning fans and they're legit Panther fans. I can't really say that much with the other sports. Honestly, unfortunately, there's a section, but it's not. When my good friend Mike that's on the show sometimes, he's a season ticket holder for Florida Panthers, and it's not just in that Miami area. It's West Palm Beach to Miami, sometimes even a little bit north of West Palm Beach. They're all so it's I think Florida has become a hockey number one, honestly, for the fan base. So I would say.
So where you live, are you kind of stuck in the middle between Tampa and Miami in terms of allegiance for hockey teams?
Yeah,
Florida and Tampa.
Yeah, on NFL, we're literally, if you MapQuest it, we're 3 hours and 1 minute from Jacksonville. We're 3 hours and 4 minutes from Miami, and we're 3 hours exactly from Tampa. So it's which one do we pick? But
if you're smart, you just turn to your wife and say, "Which one should we root for?" And there you go.
Yeah, and somehow I went with Carolina Panthers, and they're terrible. So this has been a really fast 52 minutes. So wanted to, as we sign off here, I just want to say, Noah, thank you so much. Sorry that they didn't make it to the playoffs this year, but this was a really fun conversation, and look forward to not just continuing to see what you put out there on social media on Daily Hive, but just really getting into the National Hockey League a little bit more, and perhaps even the CHL as well a little bit. So thank you for your time. And Darren, as always, thank you for your time as well. And just continue, guys that are watching along, hit that like button, subscribe, please share with friends and family to help us get to 2,100. Hopefully by the end of this month is the goal. So with that said, everybody, thank you so much for being part of the show. And until next time, we'll see you around the ballpark.